if you hold spaces in your being that you judge yourself, you are aligning a space for others to judge you. If you hold spaces in your being where you're not enough for you, you hold alignments for others to reflect that back. It's not to make anybody feel like they've screwed it up. It's to say, turn the light on and do what you got to do to free yourself from your own cycle of energy, if that's the case. Okay. Welcome, welcome, welcome to this space, holy ones. Welcome. I'm here today with beautiful Quantum Kate. I'm going to start with that because it's going to fit this conversation. Many of you know her as Janet-Cate or a Crone's Voice on IG and in the beautiful chat spaces of our ACASMA family of light and our ACASMA pod of light. She's one of our pod leaders for the beacons of light. So I'm here with Janet-Cate today, and we're going to talk about some really beautiful spaces of higher dimensional understandings. And you guys all know what that means. That means we're going to be anchoring into higher dimensional realities because that's how it works. Thank you, Janet, for being here today. Thank you so much. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So we have so many things we could talk about, and you and I were conveying that to one another here. I want to jump probably ahead of where we would have went normally, but let's just be, our free-flowing selves. You're so active, and I'm so grateful for it, believe me, on all levels beyond comprehension. You're so active in the ACASMA chats. So we have all these different chats, and Janet will attest there's a lot. But I always have to really think when I'm going to maybe build another one, what will Janet say? But that's because Janet is so good to always be present in these spaces to share love and kindness and be there for anyone coming into these chats. So we do have several different ones based on the different spaces of our group outreach. But I wanted to mention this because in the chat space, in the ACASMA Connections chat, which is all the course space chats, anybody who's in the course spaces is coming in there. One of the individuals came in there and shared some really beautiful information about experiential space with ACASMA Quantum Energy and really anchoring into the understanding of their wholeness, all the spaces of themselves beyond just singling themselves out as this human experiential space, but allowing that sovereignty of their wholeness to flood into that human space and then expand their vantage point, how they perceive, how they even feel the energy around them and inside of them because of that expansion. And you commented on that, Janet, and you said that you had a event coming up, I believe. And you said that that was a beautiful reminder to anchor into as you enter into this event space. So I thought, how many people are in that exact same alignment? Endlessly, I get emails, comments, DMs from people saying, I'm going to be going to this event, or I'm going to be experiencing this space. And do you have any guidance on how I can remain in my sovereignty? Because we're very used to living in the reactive states, right? The judgmental states, the victim states, and there's no judgment on that. That is information that you have a choice to live in a different state. You can move. You can actually move states into a different being of yourself. So Janet, you've played this song and you actually are an expert at this symphony. And you've mastered it greatly in many ways. That one of our first YouTube videos, I think, was on this, actually, in some ways, navigating family connection, deep old programs coming up once you're back in the space. So what are you thinking as you're moving into preparing to go on your event this weekend? And what could you share here that might assist others who are in that space of wanting to maintain sovereignty and their wholeness in those regular everyday life kind of older spaces of themselves?
Well, every day, I remind myself that I'm not the same person that I was just 2 years ago or even a year ago, that I am continuing to expand. And I just keep reminding myself that I can live in my wholeness no matter what situation I'm in. And I'm not unrealistic. I'm pretty sure I'll get triggered while I'm there, but it won't devastate me. It won't level me to the ground. I may need to just like go into the bedroom or go to the bathroom or step outside, something like that. But yeah, I just have been reminding myself that I am a powerful being, and I design and I align how this all unfolds, that no one else is designing it for me. It's me.
That's your PowerPoint, right? That's your PowerPoint. The opposite of that is it's being done to us, right?
Right.
And when we think everything's being done to us, we've then bound ourselves up in that type of flow. We're going to experience that type of flow. So I like that. I like your words. I love your words and the way in which you were saying you knew there will be opportunities. There will be spaces where you may feel something. Now, this is more common with family or old friends or people that see us from, when we were young and all throughout our lives. And we, for whatever reason, I think it's interesting. I think even if they don't keep us in that same space in their mind, I think we do.
Yeah.
And I think, do you know what I mean with that?
Yeah. Well, my mom's turning 90 in July, and she has been calling me almost every day about this party we're having. And I really have been just able to take a deep breath, not get annoyed, just let her ask the questions that she's asking, tell her she's always asking my opinion. I don't know whether she'll follow any of it or not, but when I get there, but I tell her what I think is the best thing to do, and then I just let it go. And so we'll see. It's hard for her not to hijack her own birthday party. And if she does, I'm just going to allow it.
That's beautiful. That's a powerful statement. But, and I love this understanding as well. When we allow the space with reason, we don't condone anyone harming us or abusing us or whatever. We set boundaries, we say what we need to say. But when we allow, like as in what I think you're saying here, is allowing your mother to make her choices based upon whatever she's feeling to do, reference her, right? Her way of interpreting, her way of feeling, her way of, being in the space. That's all her business. And when we allow that for the other person or people, we free ourselves up from being in with them. When we don't allow them to flow in their way, we're now jumping in their boat. And then we wonder why we get all stressed out and we experience all of these dense spaces and we're worn out and exhausted and frustrated. But we climbed in the boat with them when we refused to allow them to flow their way, and we tried to change it to match something we would think was better. Does that make sense?
Yes, because 10 years ago for her 80th birthday, I did climb in the boat with her, and I was angry and I was exhausted. And so, like, it's her birthday, it's not my birthday. So, whatever she wants, she can do it. And I'm happy and grateful that she's here to do it.
Beautiful. I love that add-on. That's so powerful because, a lot of times we get caught up in the actual event and the planning and the layout and the rollout. And we're so into that we never get to why we're even doing the event or who's even at the space, to have those moments of connectivity that are precious and rare and will not occur in that same way ever again.
That's
And
right.
you never know, no matter if someone's 90 or 9, you just never know. So that's a really good add-on that you have as well with your mindset. I feel like there's a lot here as well on the sovereignty of our beings. Like you were saying, I'm a powerful being. I believe you went in with that's how you're going to remind yourself that you're this powerful being. And I think a lot of humanity, myself included, for a big majority of my life, was taught or programmed to believe what power meant and what power looked like and what power felt like and what power is even. Yet I think there is more power sometimes in the one who doesn't have to speak or respond or react, than in the one who gets all in somebody's business and face and has to be heard at all costs. I think sometimes there's more, not only power, but also wisdom. I followed for a very long time. He's not in the physical form anymore, but Wayne Dyer, you may be familiar with him. Many of the viewers here may be familiar with him as well. If you're not, go find his work because he's phenomenal. I love him. We love you, Wayne. I really do. I think of him as a spiritual father still. So he said one time when I was in the space of really learning to do all that we're talking about right here, let go and be more open to the flow of things and let people experience whatever they're designing, and we experience and be observant of what we are. I was listening to Wayne as I was learning to do this, and he said, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And I was in a space at that time where I thought it was, you were supposed to be right at all costs, including the last word. That was big, having the last word. So it took me a little while to process, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Because I had those thoughts of, but then am I not setting boundaries? Am I losing self-love because I'm letting somebody say the last thing and I'm letting them think they're right because I'm not arguing? But then I thought about it in a deeper level of what I believe Wayne was conveying. And I think he was coming from the understanding of the presence of love, like real love beyond human comprehension, self-love beyond human comprehension as well. And being able to maintain that space of ourselves as someone else is moving through whatever they're moving through, but again, not getting in the boat with them, right? So do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? What does that do for you when you hear that sentence now, and maybe even comparably to as you've been expanding?
Well, especially with my mother, and I have noticed with my husband too. I do, it's like a habit. I want to be right. And if I'm not right, then I'm not smart. Or if it's like I have needed that as like some sort of I've needed that acknowledgement that I'm right on some level to make me feel more important or smarter or something like that. And now it's like, it's people, everyone has their own opinion, and just allow it. Like, why fight it? I've especially learned that with my mother. I realize that I've always had this need to be for her approval. And if I'm not right, which I hardly ever am with my mother, then she doesn't approve of me. And really, she loves me. I know that, but she wished that I would have had a different life than what I've chosen. And that's her deal. It's not mine. So
that's the key. It's her deal, not mine. That's where I think we hold the piece of being right, even if the other person can't hear us or doesn't agree with us and validate our right. Because and that's a really big part of it, because just because someone outside of us doesn't validate, you're right, I believe what you believe, that doesn't make what we believe wrong, and it doesn't make what we believe less. That's like a really big space of being able to for me, and I think a key factor in do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? I just feel like there's such a huge nugget of gold here for us. Think about that. When other people not agreeing with us or not thinking we're right, right, doesn't affect us that way, it's because we've really anchored into the space of ourselves where we know that we know that we know who we are. They're not validating who we are. They're not telling us who we are. We already know who we are. So we don't need to fight with anybody to get them on board or something. Does that make sense?
It's up to us to validate ourselves.
Yes.
Kind of the
Yes,
bottom
yes,
line.
yes, yes, yes. And if you really believe that and you really, really live from that, there's a neutrality present when other people are saying things or doing things that aren't what you would say or do within reason. We're not talking about harming anyone or making choices that go against anyone, but we're talking about normal, connectivity with your family, your friends, your coworkers. Being able to communicate and being able to allow other people. Now, there is a hard spot here. There's a hard spot. We're going to give this to those that are watching because I get a lot of emails and questions. And so this is something I see a lot, is when you talked about like wanting your mother's validation, right? Now, there's like another space of that where the other person can actually be very much not a lifter up of the person, they can actually be someone that kind of tears down at the person, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so if anyone is in spaces like that, there's a couple things to look at. Janet, I'm going to shut up and let you talk as well, I swear. But it's really
Continue,
important.
please.
Janet brings all this out of me. We have the most fabulous conversations. I always say, Janet, will you come on YouTube with me? She brings all this out, flows so well. But some people in our lives, they, for whatever, they seem to just pick at us or tear at spaces or poke at spaces even that are irritating for us or uncomfortable for us, or maybe even borderline we would consider them emotionally abusive or something like that. There's a couple things happening though that need to be considered. I teach and believe, I don't want anyone to ever think that you're doing something wrong, but I want you to hold the information so that you understand how to be the most powerful, best you can be. But if you hold spaces in your being that you judge yourself, you are aligning a space for others to judge you. If you hold spaces in your being where you're not enough for you, you hold alignments for others to reflect that back. It's not to make anybody feel like they've screwed it up. It's to say, turn the light on and do what you got to do to free yourself from your own cycle of energy, if that's the case, okay? I feel like that's something very important here because, Janet, you went through a massive space of self-love, self-expansion, looking at yourself differently, healing spaces of inner child, like really big stuff and pretty fast if you think of the enormity and the depth of what you did, right? What you worked with. But from an observer's point of view, I felt as if it was completely interconnected with then how you were able to connect with your mother. I don't think you would connect with your mother the way you're connecting with your mother now, which is very differently than a few years ago. But I don't think you would if you weren't connecting with you differently.
Oh, definitely. Because I used to have a lot of self-judgment. And it still creeps in sometimes. But I'm more aware of what it is when it shows up.
So do you feel like that is definitely part of maybe even your mom? Like, can you see it? I always say I'm my own scientific experiment because I analyze my own experiential spaces and life and all this, and I love to learn from it. And I have for many years. Do you look at your life with your mom now and your life with yourself now? And can you see those definite spaces of growth or movement or healing or whatever it is coming through to confirm to you that it's interconnected?
Yes. One of the things that's happened, you know a little bit about this, is that I have to, and we don't have any kind of a relationship. But I must have said something to my mother years ago, and she thinks I don't like my cousin. I said I don't have anything in common with her. Well, so as it turns out, it was my mother's way of like eventually getting to. She wants to invite my cousin to her birthday party.
So that's where that was coming from to begin
That's
with.
where it was coming from. This is my mother. This is how my mother has this cunning way of like coming in the back door and then slam. And so I just like, I said, I don't have anything in common with her. Well, do you care if I invite her? I said, no, because I really don't care if she invites her. I miss my mother's birthday party. But then I also had the thought, because I thought a lot about this and I was gauging my reaction. And at one time, I think I would have been a little bit ruffled probably about it. But then my mom says, well, your cousin looks at me as a mother figure because her mother has passed on. And I said, yeah, and I think that's great. And mom said, oh, okay, good. And then I thought about it a lot about it and my response and how I really felt. And then like I had this epiphany. It's like my cousin would be my mom's perfect daughter. Nothing like my sister and I. And I'm okay with that too. I'm like, bring it on. That's great. And it's like, it's just, so this whole thing has been so freeing. Like just watching, gauging my reactions during this, lead up to this weekend. And I'm a little bit nervous about being around my cousin because I haven't seen her for, years. And, but I'm happy for my mom.
Good. That's so healthy. That's so healthy.
Free.
That's fantastic. Okay, beautiful. And really, I feel like everything you were sharing was a confirming of you not gripping any space of this. You didn't get stuck in any of the points that were offered to you. And I love that you even mentioned this as well earlier, is you design and align it all. So you even hold that observation as you are navigating it, that you brought it all in, that this is perfect timing. It's not by chance. It's not just your mom's birthday and your mom wants her there. It's your connective point to this woman. It's your connective point to the mother relationship with this woman, the mother relationship with you, and the whole thing. I mean, like, it's probably even layers beyond what we know. But then being able to observe yourself navigate it and feel so free, feel so at peace.
I do. It's totally, it's a whole new space for me.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I'm not trying to say anything reference. I just feel like this is a really big, important point. If anything you don't want in the video, I'll take out, right? But when I first met you, there were a couple of times we would be on group spaces with many of the other ACASMA Family of Light people that do our course spaces and classes. And I remember you remarking a few times in the very beginning about how youthful everyone was and how you wished you would have done this sooner in your life. And then after a few months, I watched you gently let that go. And I watched you. Maybe it wasn't completely let go, but I do feel like you don't carry it like you used to, not in the beginning point, because there was some like sadness and judgment in there. But I feel like you just kind of dropped it like it was a cloak, like an old blanket, and you just dropped that whole thought process off of you and you said, I'm going to walk from here on, and I'm not carrying that with me. And when you said to me just now that it's a whole new space for you, and you're 70 now, right? You just turned 70 this year. Okay. So anyone watching this that is saying to themselves, yeah, but I'm older, or I've lived a long time the way I am, I don't think it's possible. Why would I even want to deal with it now? Because the most beautiful life is always ready to be present with us if we're ready to be present with it. And Janet,
I like that.
you are the most beautiful example of that. I see that with you. And you do have the tag or handle or name of your page on Instagram is A Crone's Voice. And many in the culture of humanity think of the crone as the wise one, right? And the one that knows all these things about all the aspects of life that they've navigated and then can convey and assist the younger as they are navigating, right? And there's this respect of the elder one and the wisdom. And I feel like you've embodied that title that I met you in. Like I met you in Kate Cauldron, I think it was in the very beginning, right? And A Crone's Voice, and then Quantum Kate and Janet-Cate. There's in this evolution, even within the names, if you will.
That's been
Right? And it's so beautiful because it's only really been about 3 years or so, just about that, right? Spring of 2020-ish. And these spaces of shift and healing and change that you are able to talk about from a very anchored understanding of, a lot of people take years or a lifetime to do. And even though you say, I wish I would have done it earlier in the beginning, I feel like you hit the button of making up for lost time or something, and you whoop speeded through. You're like, I've got this. How do you feel about all of that?
Yeah, it has been a process, and I still like this trip to Sedona. I'm working through the whole age thing with that too. But yeah, and that's one of the reasons I've moved from Kate to Janet-Cate, Quantum Kate, but I love the name A Crone's Voice, and because it reminds me that moving into the crone stage is a really beautiful, beautiful stage to be in. And it helps me to remember to use my voice, which I was always afraid to do. And so, yeah, here I am, 70 years old, and honestly, I'm happier than I've ever been. I love myself. I love my life. Yes, I still have to like wrap my head around being 70 and realizing that, I've lived a majority of my life already, but I don't have any regrets. I've made what a lot of people would call mistakes, but I learned something from every one of them. And yeah, life is good.
I love it. I love it. And I am so grateful for you and your wisdom and your grace. I've always told you that since the very beginning, that you were this anchor of groundedness that I was drawn to. And with this work we work in such higher vibrational spaces of being and with beings that groundedness is such an important gift. So thank you for being it in this space for me and for our family of light. You're so incredibly powerful in the way in which you anchor that shared strength, like truly like the foundational rock that everybody can grab a hold of when they feel like they're getting a little bit of a wind blowing on them or something, a little wobbly. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. And I must add, I've climbed red rocks with this woman in Sedona, Arizona, and I have stood in the oceans of the Gulf of Mexico with this woman in Destin, Florida. And I think those are just the beginning spaces of our journeys. I hope there are more adventures for us that are ahead as well. But we're going back to Sedona in just a few months. But nothing about you says what humans typically would describe or think of when they think of 70. I'm sorry, but
Thank you.
I feel more like, and I do feel like that's something that's happening in our humanity for anyone who's really available for it, because you can choose to be old and falling apart and everything's downhill, or you can choose to embrace and look for the sunshine and take care of yourself in these ways. But they'll say like, what is it, 50's the new 30 or something like that, like they have all these sayings for ages, and I really think 70's like 50 now for me. Maybe because I'm 50, but I'm like,
50s were a good decade.
oh, but I just really feel like we're in, because we're healthier energetically with our minds, with our energy, with our way in which we're living our lives and being present with our lives. We are flowing at a vibrance in our cells, in our DNA, in our blood, in our skin, all the spaces of us, that is more youthful than the age of us, whatever age that is, 70, 52, whatever you are, okay? Whatever people were flowing at vibrationally at your age 10 years ago is not the same vibrational rate that they're flowing at the age of this now. Okay, does that make sense? Does that convey?
Yes.
Yeah. And and when we went up the Red Rock, there were some that didn't go all the way because maybe they didn't feel comfortable with the height or the climbing or whatever it was. But you never stopped. You never stopped, and you went all the way to the top every time. So a shout out to you, that you are so incredible and beautiful and powerful in all the ways that you're being you. And I love it. It is such an inspiration to me. I just went through the last several years menopause, and so I'm on the other side of that, and it's like for me, maybe the entering into the phases of understanding that I'm moving in towards the crone space, right? Like I'll be a grandmother probably in the next few years or something, and just different phases of those types of monumental spaces, I guess you might say, or something. But I look at you and I feel like there's so much beauty to be had. There's so much richness of life to be tasted. And I say that because of how I see you live. So may I lay that at your feet and tell you thank you for enriching our lives by allowing us to see how you enrich your own.
Thank you, Andrea. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful words and sentiments. I am so grateful. Thank you so much. It means a lot, believe me.
Well, this is an incredible talk we've had because we've been a couple different places, but I'm going to say this as well before we end this call. Think about maybe creating YouTube videos. I don't know if you've ever considered it, or content on IG, but videos where you can talk to us, because I think you have a whole lot more to share with us and inspire us, because you inspire me, and I would imagine you would inspire many, many, many more. So I think we're waking up to just how valuable a crone's voice is. I think that society, humanity is waking up to the family again. It's waking up to the grandmother, the grandfather, the mother, the father, the whole thing being heard, all the spaces of itself. Yes, does that make sense?
Yes, back to fundamentals.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts on navigation with family members and friends. Not one really big thing that I think you'll confirm, and I'll hit the ball to your court on, is it's very important for us to also remember when we're going into event spaces to not box up the people in the event either. The way we see them plays a role in how we experience them. And if we go in and place them in boxes of judgment on us or judgment on them or whatever it is, that's the energy we're saying we're kind of aligning in one way or another. Do you agree with me?
Yes, like you said, there are so many points of contact. And to me, the most important thing is just remember to stay in my lane. As our friend ACASMA Julia says.
Julia, yes, I love it. ACASMA with Julia, that's right. Go check her out as well.
We are the only one that we're responsible for.
That's right.
Unless there's an emergency or something like that.
Yes,
but you know what?
yes.
Like, we are, it's all about us. And that's okay. I mean, I don't want to say, it's not in a narcissistic way.
No.
Just in a, when we learn that we create everything, that we are our thoughts, that we're everything.
Yes.
Then it changes everything around us and outside of it, and it ripples out.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. The detached.
We were never taught that. We were taught just the opposite of that.
Absolutely. Detached and an illusion of separation, and then spaces of fear and judgment, shame and guilt, all compounded on top to keep the space nice and tight and low. And that is then more directable. That whole group of people is more manipulate. You can manipulate them and do with them what you will if you're thinking about it in that manner, like a whole societal structure. But once you understand who you really are, which is what we teach in ACASMA Quantum Energy, and you reconnect, that's the thing. We talked about this before. You can have all the knowledge in the world in a book, but if the book never leaves the shelf and never gets read and never gets implemented, it's just a knowledge in a book, you know? It's not power in a life. And so it's good to know what we're talking about, but then you have the opportunity to implement what we're talking about.
And don't beat yourself up if
yes,
you have a misstep, because we're all going to have missteps. That's part of learning.
And they're the missteps we design, we aligned so we could understand who we are better. So it's not even like, you know, that it has to be looked at with judgment. It can be looked at with opportunity. And at the same time you were saying that, I was saying, trust yourself.
Yes, always.
So, yeah, that's really good. I love that. So anyone venturing into spaces where you feel like there's some triggers or some sharp energy that's uncomfortable in any way, just remember who you really are beyond the space of the now physical experiential space, right? You're that, but you are much, much more than that if you will allow that space of reconnection. If you will allow that understanding for yourself, it will flood in. And when that happens, the way you feel about what you're experiencing starts to change because you've changed. And when that happens, then you navigate all of that much differently. And then you start noticing even what comes in to be navigated changes because you've changed. So it's all connected to us individually. I do not create Janet's life. Janet does not create my life. We have interconnective points because we choose to, but You are in charge of you, Holy One. You are in charge of you. Janet, thank you for today.
Thank you, Andrea. I love you.
I love you too. I love you too. And I love each and every
Go
one.
ACASMA. Go ACASMA. Woo!
Oh, I love it. Go ACASMA. I love it. So anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about with ACASMA is ACASMA Quantum Energy, and it's a beautiful healing modality. It's a beautiful higher vibrational space of connection. It's a beautiful energy modality of ascension modality to help all who are ready remember what we're talking about and reconnect in to that sovereignty and that self-love and that self-worth. So more information is available on my website, and I also wrote a book, which I'll stick a little plug here at the end of the video as well, and you can check it out. But thank you all for joining us here today. Thank you, Janet-Cate, Quantum Kate, beautiful divine one, a crone's voice. Thank you, Holy One, for being in this space. And I love you. I love you. I love you. Well, I kept videoing. Who knows? Maybe I'll pull some more stuff out of this.
Okay. I love you, Andrea. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you for being you and being there and holding my hand and walking.
Always, 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 always.
Likewise.
All right. I can't wait to see you in September. I'm going to be so excited to hang out with you again. I love hanging out with you. It'll be here before.
That's good.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Have an incredible afternoon. I love you very much.
Oh, well, Friday, I'm going to try to listen live on the road. Saturday will be iffy about the new human.
Oh yes, you're going to be being the new human.
I'll be busy being the new human while you're talking to everybody else about how to do it, okay?
You do it, girl. You own it, all right? You own it. All right, sounds good.
All right, take care. Thank you.